Thanks so much for joining. Today we're going to be using the launch from object and we're going to be creating a gun like this. And as you can see, it's a pretty simple gun. You cock it by hitting the lower B button. Oh no, there's a zombie! And in our advanced tutorial, we'll be showing you how to create a zombie creature that comes at you and moves and follows you. And so as you can see, when we grab the gun, the zombie creature spawns in. As we move around, it slowly turns and follows us. I've set it to be relatively slow because it's a zombie. And if you weren't sure it was a zombie, it's got a big Z on it and some little like patchy skin and red eyes. And so you cock the gun by clicking the lower button on your right hand, so that's the A button, and then you can fire. We're gonna start by covering some real basics so you can get a gun going immediately, and then we're gonna get into the advanced topics like creating the zombie and the motion, and some of these, like we have 2 bullets, so that way you can fire multiple bullets at a time. Anyway, there's a lot of great content coming up. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Let's get right into it. Let's go ahead and start by creating the script. Index trigger is pressed. We are going to want to fire. So we're going to run the launch from object, and we're going to set some variables. Variable number 1, we're going to do is the speed. And since we're going to be designing a sample of a gun, we'll make the speed 40 so it fires relatively fast. Please note that the faster it fires, the less accurate collisions can be. So sometimes you want to go slower. Now we're going to fire that. So where are we launching from and what are we launching? So let's go ahead and create an object labeled bullet. There we go. So we're going to launch the bullet, and we're going to create another object which is going to be called gun trigger. So note that we're not running off the gun itself. We're not launching from itself. What we're going to, because this is going to be running on the gun, so to get the index trigger, we need to run this script from the gun itself. And then when the trigger is pressed while holding it, then it's going to launch from a trigger that we're going to put inside of the gun. This is going to prevent the bullet from spawning inside of the gun and spinning out of control. Grab a trigger like that, but if we need to adjust rotation, fortunately we just need to rotate the trigger. There we go, maybe even make it a little shinier. Here we have all we need. Let's go ahead and group these together. Dragging through the trigger first. There we go. Now group them together. There we go. Go into the properties. And then from inside of properties, we're going to go inside. Open up the trigger, go back, add the launch from object script. We're then going to drag the trigger over down to gun trigger. So we got where we're firing from. And then we need a bullet to fire. So let's go ahead and grab this guy. I like to make it the same size as the barrel or close to. There we go. Paint that as well. Kind of a red bullet, not a bad idea actually. Kind of fun. All right, let's go ahead and drag that in here as our bullet. So we go into the object. We go and add interactive, grabbable physics. Sure, we'll make it metal. And let's go ahead and grab an anchor. Excuse me, a grab anchor. And actually, yeah, let's make that attachable to the person. Like to their torso, so you could like stick it on your waist. Okay, now we got grab anchor on, and now we can see that the trigger is rotated wrong, so we need to rotate it. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Properties. Ah, we already had that open. Let's go inside and then rotate this. There we go. So we need to make our bullet animated as well, and then we want to give it physics and give it metal. There we go. Let's try that out. There you have it. That is how you make a basic gun. Not too bad. But there's a lot more we can do. Now that we've covered the basics, let's go ahead and create an advanced script. Call this, because that was just a launch from object script. This here is going to be an actual gun script. So there's a lot of things we can do. So I think first thing we need to do is set up our bullet correctly. So when the world is started, we want to hide our gun, or excuse me, our bullet. So, and then when we fire, we want to show the bullet. Let's hide bullet and then show bullet. So that's good. And then the next thing we want to do is reset this bullet. So then let's send an event with a delay and create a new variable, which is probably the best way to do it. So hide bullet after, and then we'll set this to be default of 10. And then we can plug that in, so that can be changed from inside the object. So if you have multiple different types of guns, you might have one that shoots a really slow bullet, and therefore it needs a lot more time. So then we're going to send event hide bullet is receive that event. When event is received, we're then going to hide object bullet. Okay, so this seems pretty good, but I think we should also set up a Boolean that stops it from being instantly reusable. Like you kind of have to cock the gun, right? So let's go ahead and set up a new variable, which will be a Boolean, and this will be called gun ready, and then it's going to start as false. So then we're going to run an if statement here, which is going to be if gun ready equals true. Then we'll indent all of these. There we go. So if gun ready equals true, then we'll do this. So how do we make gun ready? Well, we're going to have when button 2 is pressed, we will set, and we're also going to need to do another set command up here because we're going to set this to false after it's been fired. So then we're going to set gun ready in both of these places. So here we're going to change it from true to false, and when button 2 is pressed on your hand, so not your trigger but your A or B button, or I guess, yeah, A button. So when gun ready is pressed, and then we'll make it true. There we go. So that's how you ready your gun up. And when we do that, we kind of want to have a sound, right? Like a cocking sound. So what we're going to do is move 2, and then do this up here as well, because this will be the firing sound. So we'll have 2 move 2 commands. And then we're going to have play sound. Okay. There we go. And so we'll create new object variables. First one will be fire sound effect. And the next one will be cock sound effect. There we go. So we'll go ahead and drag that into our play sound. And we'll move this up to here and do that down here as well. And then we want to make sure that these sound effects are being moved. So put this also on the move command. So this object is also here. And then where are we moving to? Well, we're moving to the position of self, the gun itself. So position of object, and the position of object self. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to get sound effects happening every time the trigger is pulled, but only if the gun is ready. We should probably do the same thing here, right? We should only cock the gun and play that sound if the gun isn't ready. Come down here, and if gun ready is false. So it's the opposite. There we go. Then we can do all of this. That should work pretty well. Let's go ahead and test that out before we add anything else. So what we're going to want to do is come in here and add some sounds. Let's go search for fire. There we go. So let's go into our gunfire. Not a bad start. Let's make it bassier. Sometimes zooming in can make this a little bit easier to use. A little bit louder. We want this to be heard, not 100 blocks away, but more like 50 blocks. So adjusting this distance is pretty important. Okay, now let's go into our gun and attach this. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and switch this to our gun script. And in here, we will need to reattach all of our previous. So we'll go ahead and grab our fire sound effect. We're going to need to go into the object so that way we can get the trigger. We'll drag that into here. Close out of that, back out of here. Go grab our bullet and drag that one in as well. There we go. And we just need to figure out what sound effect we're going to use for the sound of cocking the gun. We're going to increase that. A bit louder. And this is only going to happen within a radius of 10, so a really small radius. There you go. It's not exactly the sound I'd like, but for now, this is going to work great. Let's go ahead and drag that in. All right, let's go ahead and test it out. Grab our gun. But it didn't work, so we have to cock it. So for reference, that is the B button. It's the top one on the left, or on your right hand. Oh, wow. These are pretty fast at that. It's a nice, iteration, where it doesn't just instantly fire, that you have to do something else. But I want it to be the A button. I want it to be further back. I want your finger to have to feel like it's kind of pulling something back. So let's go switch that to the B, or the A button, not the B button. So to do that, we're just going to simply go into our gun script. Come over here and grab when button 1 is pressed, since we used button 2. And then all we have to do is drag our if statement over, since it's all running off the if statement. Scroll down, make sure that all got transferred over. It did. There we go. Okay, so great stuff. Now that we've got our gun built, firing a single bullet might not be ideal. We might want to have 2 bullets. And in some cases, I've even done 4 bullets where I had a water balloon gun. So yeah, that feels a lot better, having to pull back a little further. And you can't really tell in here, but the moment you fire again, you have to go really fast. But the moment you fire again, the bullet is then teleported back here. So if you're firing, all the way over there, you might not hit your target before you've had to reload. And part of adding the reload for me was about making sure that the player had to do something so they couldn't rapid fire. Rapid fire is nice, but if you want to do rapid fire, you need to build a lot more bullets. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to add a second bullet. And to do that, we simply add a boolean. And this boolean is going to say which bullet. And then we're going to add a second variable called object, which will also be bullet, and this will be bullet 2. Okay. If statements are kind of slow to set, we're going to actually go ahead and do this all in the cocking mechanism, because that makes the most sense, because we can do it in here really easily, and it does happen every single time. We're going to do an if statement. We're going to create a new variable, which will be called object, and this will be called object in motion. And then we're going to set one more if statement, do the same set command. Okay, so now that we have our 2 if statements with both set commands, we're going to set object in motion on both of these to be the value bullet 1 or bullet 2. And then, instead of having to rewrite the firing script twice, what we're going to do is use object in motion instead of bullet. So anywhere we've had bullet before, we're just going to replace it with object in motion. Although at the beginning of the world, we do need to hide both bullets. So we'll go ahead and have to duplicate that one. So we'll hide object bullet 2. Make sure that object in motion is the one that's being revealed later. So hide object in motion. We can only hide the bullet if it hasn't been fired recently. So I'd actually kind of like to replace this with 2 hide scripts and just hide both bullets. And then we're just only going to do this if bullets haven't been fired within 10 seconds. So we'll go ahead and hide bullet 1 and bullet 2. And then to prevent it from hiding them while they're being fired, we want to cancel sending with delay. So right at the beginning of index trigger pressed, when it's true, we're going to cancel sending, hide bullet, and then we'll send it again right at the end. So gun ready, object in motion, object in motion. There we go. So that's all good. Now, to get this correctly, we need to check our Boolean. So we're going to use an equal sign and an equal sign here. Doesn't really matter which order you put these in because it's just going to be swapping back and forth. But what we're checking is which bullet. And we're going to grab our Boolean input. And so since it says which bullet, when it equals false, it'll fire 1. And when it equals true, it's going to fire number 2. So what we need to do is run 2 set commands to switch the Boolean off and on. So then we go ahead and grab our Boolean, which bullet, and now we set these to be the reverse. Set this to be the opposite Boolean. So this one needs to be Boolean true, and this one needs to be Boolean false. We need to separate these if statements into another event. And in addition to that, we need to run them at separate times. Because what looks like what's happening is it's going ahead and setting this and then immediately running the set again. So it's just constantly being set to the same one because it's running through and it's saying, okay, we're going to set this to be true. Okay, we're going to set this to be this bullet. And so the problem is every time it's running through, it's not having enough delay between the ifs. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is make sure that we're only setting which bullet once. And since we've already got this Boolean here, this is what's going to make sure we only set it once. So then we're going to send event, and we'll call this my1, custom my1. What we have to do is not only send this my event to check the if statements, we then need to set 2 separate events. So we need to send 2 separate events with a delay of 1 second. Now this is going to be a pain, because basically we're just creating a ton of separate events like my2, my3. And so now that we've created those separate events, we just need to move these into those separate events. And what this is going to do is it's going to pause the setting. We will be able to not experience any issues. Okay, so my2, custom y2, and custom my3. Don't always have to be creative with these events, I'm just saying. Someone might argue with me, but it's just faster not to have to think, what am I going to call this event today? All right, so there we go. So now we're going to send these after 1 second, which should be plenty of delay to choose which bullet to use. In fact, I'd actually go down here and actually set this to be ½ a second. That way, if someone's really fast with their finger, that we're not missing it. Okay, let's try it out. Grab our gun, cock, fire. Hey, we got the blue bullet. And there's a red bullet. There we go. Look at that, beautiful. And so you can see if I go faster than ½ a second, you can actually miss a bullet. Quite interesting. But within a few seconds, it's switched out. So, you know, you could make it like 0.2 seconds, so let's go ahead and do that. But basically, we just need to be slightly faster than the human is possible with clicking. So 0.2, faster than a human, slower than a computer, right? Okay, there we have it. So we've now got this working. We've now got 2 separate bullets. We've got sound effects, but you know what we're missing? We're missing visual effects. That's a mistake. So let's create a new variable. This will be called an object, and this will be our VFX. And so we're going to want to play visual effects, and what we're going to do is play this. Play visual effects right after firing. There we go. So there's our fire command, and we're going to play these not on self. We're going to play visual effects on visual effects. And so the nice thing here is we don't have to do a move command like we have done for some of our other things like our fire sound effects. What we can actually do is go into our gun. So grab properties. We're going to go inside the object. Once inside, we're going to play the boom or the smoke effect right here. Let's go ahead and preview that to see if it's the right size. That might be a little much. There we go, that's nice. Don't play on start. We like the default. We're gonna put this here. Problem is, as you can see, we have lost our gun. So what you do is you click on the object, you go to the properties panel, and so even though we're not inside the object right now, we can go back inside, and that has actually brought our object inside. Then we can move it to the right position now that our gun readjusted. And once we got it to the right position, we'll back out. Oh, but first we need to tag it. So let's go ahead and grab our doohickey, drag that on down here, let go of it. So if you select an object and then back out, it removes it from the object. So there we go. Now we can see it's working. So let's go ahead and grab that again. And cock and fire. Cock and fire. Nice. Very nice. Okay, so this is great. We've got a working gun. In all likelihood, you don't just want a gun. You want something to interact with the gun. So let's go ahead and build a quick target. All right, welcome back. So we've got this kind of a zombie creature here. And if you weren't sure it was a zombie, we've got red eyes and a giant Z on his chest. So let's go ahead and group him together. I've set the sound to be looping and global because I'm planning to teleport him in and out so he's not always here. And so it shouldn't be as annoying to the player as it is to me right now. Okay, so we've got all of the objects selected. Now we're going to go ahead and group. There we go. There's our zombie character. To make it stand upright and forward. So we'll go ahead and put this down here on the ground. Okay. I'm going to go grab this and this. And now to make sure that he's standing upright, what we do is we go into the properties. We go down to, gotta just turn this volume down. Then we go to interactive and then click use grab anchor, and we can see that the hand is pointing forward, so we do have the grab anchor in the right spot, or excuse me, the trigger in the right spot. Collidable on, visible on, not interactive, but let's go inside and create like a platform here at the bottom that they'll be standing on that'll be invisible. So this will only work in flat spaces, but if we build this, then they won't be falling. So we can do that, make it nice and big, put it down on the ground. There we go. Go to properties, collidable on, visible off. There we go. And then we'll make it real thin. Now theoretically, we back out of here and make this physics enabled. You can see that it does work. Now we can back out of here. Oh, looks like we lost a part of the body. Not sure what this was being used for, but we're gonna go ahead and delete. Oh, it was his neck. Forgot to, that's okay, we'll have a floating head. That is fine. Okay, so what we wanna do is, I need to take him away from here. Okay, you're going down here, buddy. All the way down to the bottom of the world. Okay, so now that we got our zombie created, we need to create a script for this. This is gonna be running on the bullet. So we'll call this the bullet trigger, because we're going to put a trigger on the bullet. And now what we're going to do is when world is started, we are going to grab a vector, and this is going to be zombie position. Okay, so then what we're going to do is set zombie position to be new variable object labeled zombie. Okay. And we're going to go grab the position of object, and that's going to be of the zombie object. Okay, so there we have that. So when world starts at the zombie position of zombie, the next thing we need to do is when we receive an event, so when event is received, create a new object, which is going to be called spawn trigger, because this isn't like an actual spawn point. This is just a trigger that we're going to use to teleport the zombie in. So when event is received, and we're going to call this zombie. We'll just call it zombie, simple. So when event zombie is received, we want to move to the position of spawn trigger. So this way we can set a trigger right here. The zombie will spawn in, and then we don't have to, we could like move that trigger around. We don't have to be like locked into a specific vector location. Okay, so we'll move to position of spawn trigger on zombie. And then what we want to do is run a loop command. So let's go create when event is received, and this will be called custom z loop, send event with delay. And we're going to go grab the z loop event, and the delay is going to be 0.1 seconds. When zombie is received, what we're going to be receiving is a player ID, and this will be called player ID. Is we're going to set a value. So this is going to be player ID. We'll call it player ID. We want to like make these look slightly different so it's kind of clear where they're coming from. So this is this is this. Gun script, we're going to send an event when the trigger is picked or when the object is grabbed. When object is grabbed by player, we're going to send event to object. So we're going to need a new object, which is going to be called the bullet trigger. Okay, so now that I'm thinking about this, we actually might not want to use the bullet trigger because we have 2 bullets firing. So what we want to do is maybe actually create a kind of a smart object for this. And so we're going to not use bullet trigger. What we're going to use is called bullet control. Okay, so we're going to use bullet control. And so when grab start with players received, send event to object, which is going to be bullet control. And the event is going to be called zombie. So when the player grabs the object, we're going to send zombie to the bullet control. Now, because we're now using a bullet control script rather than what we're using before, and to be clear, what is a bullet control going to look like? Just a generic object. We're going to make it non-visible, non-collidable, and that is going to be our bullet control. Be sure not to lose it. That's kind of the key. So what we need to do is when the bullets enter the zombie, we need to send a separate notification. So we're going to quickly go build a new script here. And this is what's going to actually be our bullet trigger. Okay, and then what's going to happen is when trigger is entered by object, we are going to send an event to our bullet control. So send event to object. So again, we're going to come over here, create a new variable, call it object, and this will be bullet control. There we go. And so we're going to send the event hit. There we go. So that's pretty simple. Now we're going to come up here, and when hit is received, so this isn't bullet trigger, this is bullet control. Okay, so then we're going to come over here, and when event custom hit, so when hit is received, move the zombie, and we're also going to set simulated to false on the zombie. So when the zombie gets spawned in up here, when event zombie is received, we need to set simulated to true on zombie. And here we're going to set it to false and move to the position of spawn trigger. And what we also need to do is cancel sending event with delay. So here we're going to go ahead and cancel sending the Z loop. Okay, so once the zombie's been hit, we're going to spawn it away. We're going to play a visual effect. So new variable object VFX Z hit. Okay, so then we're going to play visual effects. This visual effects we're going to put inside of the zombie itself, so that way it always spawns on the zombie. So VFX for zombie. But we need to do this before it moves. So now we need to finish our zombie loop here. So when event zombie is received, set simulated to true, set player ID here, set move to position of spawn trigger, and then we need to send this event first because we haven't even sent it yet. So let's go ahead and send event to object right here at the bottom. And this will be the Z loop, which will then cause it to start looping. And we're going to create vector position, vector destination position, and then we're going to create a rotation, destination rotation, and we need a new, I think it's a vector, it might be a rotation, but it is direction. Which honestly does sound like a rotation, so let's make it a rotation. Okay, so we need move time, look time, and we need separation. So this is how far away is the object. So we should set our separation to be -1. We can always adjust that, but that's how far it's going to be away from the object. The look time, we're going to set to be kind of slow. So let's go with like 1, so 1 whole second to like rotate. Maybe even more like 1.5 seconds, kind of keep it slow. And the move time, we're going to make this really slow. It's going to be 5. So we're going to do 3 set commands in the Z loop. 2 and 3. Set position. Set destination position. And then we're going to come up here, and the position is going to be position of self. So position of object. But the self isn't actually self in this case, it's actually the zombie because we're not running on ourself. So destination position is going to be the position of a player. So we're going to grab position of player, and we're going to grab the position of their torso, and we just need to go grab player ID. And we actually need to make sure player ID is sent through with the zombie script, so better go do that real quick before we forget. So when we come into our gun script, you'll see when we send event to here, we need to send, with parameter. So we grab our duplicate tool and pull it over. And now we have player being sent through to our controller. And now we then set player ID to PLID or on player ID. And then when we come through here and we need to get the position, we have it right there. We're going to go into our math. We're going to scroll up here to normalize. And then we're going to go up a little further and grab our minus. We're going to subtract destination position minus position. There we go, that's our direction. So remember when I said I wasn't sure if the direction needed to be a vector or a rotation? It needed to be a vector, so just quickly swap that out with, there we go. Doop. All right, so there we have that. Set to destination position. So we're going to go into our math. We're going to grab plus, and then we're going to scroll down and grab multiply. And this math uses destination position, direction, separation. Thinking we might want to take this separation and move it down to -0.5, just in case. Because 1, when multiplied, is itself, and that seems like that could be causing some issues. So I just want to make sure we eliminate any issues. Go grab our move, and then move to overtime. Then we're going to go ahead and grab zombie, because what are we moving? We're moving the zombie. We set a move time to be 5, so we're going to go ahead and drag that in, so it's relatively slow. And then move with vector destination position. So let's go ahead and grab destination position, as our vector. There we go. So move to destination position over move time on zombie. So we're going to use a set command. So set destination rotation. Okay, so then we're going to grab the look at and grab a vector and set this to 0, 1, 0. Look towards direction. Rotate 2 over time. And then we're going to do this over look time. So that'll be 1.5 seconds to rotate its face to look at you. And that might actually be too slow if you're not moving very fast, but so maybe we actually should go with more of a 1 second look time. Just a little bit faster. But if you run really fast, it's gonna be like 1, 1. Yeah, no, that seems about right. So send event z loop to self after look time, and then rotate to destination rotation, and then run that on our zombie. Okay. Okay, someone probably caught this, but I definitely messed this up because that was supposed to be 0.1, and I definitely lost that 0.1. There we go. Okay, the loop is fixed. Okay, so now that we have all of our code, we need to go link it up and test it out. So let's go to our bullets and our bullet control. Okay, now we've got bullet control connected. We're gonna need to link to the zombie. We're gonna need to create a spawn point. So let's go ahead and grab our trigger, and we're just gonna go say the zombie's gonna spawn right here. And then let's go ahead and drag that over here. In fact, before we drag it, it's not being used for anything, so we're gonna disable it. Drag our spawn trigger. There we go. Now we need to get the zombie and create a VFX hit in it. And we also need to link our gun. We need to grab our bullet control and connect the gun into that. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to create a trigger, which is gonna go around our bullet. So we go ahead and place that here around the bullet. Go into the properties of our bullet. This is going to be on objects tagged Z. And then we're going to attach script bullet trigger, connect it to the bullet control, and then we're going to duplicate this trigger. There we go. So now we have 2 of them, and those will work. We just need to label our zombie as Z. It's enabled, and now we just need to group these together. So go ahead and group, and then we need to come to our gun, and then inside our gun, we're gonna need to re-link our bullets because our bullets now are a different object. So reference bullet and reference bullet 2. There we go. So our bullets are now linked up, and we definitely need to make sure these are animated. So let's go ahead and collisions off, interactive physics, metal, interactive physics, and metal. The properties of our zombie. So under our zombie here, we're gonna go first, start with tagging that. First, we've grabbed the doohickey from our zombie, which we then just need to link in. We're gonna go ahead and create this particle effect. So let's go ahead and figure out what do we want to happen to the zombie when it disappears. Go with smoke poof because it's gonna be the most sort of accurate to what we're doing. So let's go grab this, you click on it, go into here, and then click go inside. We've now brought this inside with us. We can then set it right here, get the properties of this, unselect it so we don't accidentally bring it out. Now it's connected, grab our particle effects, and we're gonna drag that up and into our code here. So we'll go open this up and connect to the VFX. There we go. All right, so now that we have that all connected, let's go see if it works. I'm not expecting it to work. You know, there's usually a bug or two that when you're working on like a long script of code. And it's kind of good to go in with that negative attitude. Zombie spawns. Cock, fire, cock, fire. Okay. Oh, we forgot to trigger, label the zombie as Z. Okay, so let's go back out. Stop, reset, play. Tagged Z. Okay, object's now tagged Z. So what we need to do is under Z loop, let's set the delay to be half a second. This should be fine because the zombie isn't supposed to be super responsive, right? When hit, move to spawn trigger. That's the wrong, okay, so I put in the wrong location at some point, my bad. So we needed to go down to the bottom and grab zombie position. What if we send the move command with a delay? So what if we separate this, send event with delay, and we'll call this custom move Z, and we'll send it with a 1 second delay, that's fine. And then when event is received, so then we'll move the zombie out of the way. This might even be able to keep some of that like crazy motion we were seeing, which is kind of funny. Okay, he fell out the window. What? What? Oh, it's moving self to zombie position. Oh my goodness, it's always something simple. Look at that. Just needed to slide this over. Okay. Oh, nice. That wasn't bad at all. No, like that was actually perfect. So if I grab the gun again, it respawns him in. But you can see his rotation didn't get reset. So we need to go reset rotation as well. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. That was so funny. Okay, I love that. You know what? I think we're good. I'm not necessarily sure I want to make it any, like when you make the trigger bigger on the bullet, it makes the firing technically less accurate because it could like hit him from the side. Like that could fix it. You know what? I do want to do it just because some of these shots aren't exactly hitting, which is annoying. But let's go ahead and make it a little bigger. There we go. Trigger's bigger. Back out. Go into this one. Properties. Edit. Trigger's bigger. Go back out. And then what we want to do is go into our bullet control. And at world start, we want to create a new variable, which is going to be a rotation variable. And we're going to use this to get rotation, and this will be Z rot. There we go. And so we're going to set at the very beginning the original rotation of the zombie. So we're going to have Z rotation, and that's going to be the mathematics of rotation of object, and that is object zombie. And then what we're going to do is down here, when we run this move to, we're also going to run a rotate to, and run that on the zombie. I know what I'm doing, don't I? Anyway, there's always small things that you're going to miss, and it just takes reading through the code, checking every little variable. So that should work. Let's try doing hide zombie on hit. On hit, we're going to hide zombie, and we're going to show zombie up here. So grab zombie variable, hide zombie. Okay. Perfect. What we're going to do is go ahead and grab set simulated and move that here to the beginning. So set to true there, and down here when it's hit, set simulated on the moving command to false. Set simulated to false after it's moved and rotated. There we go. Oh, and make sure that runs on zombie. Almost made the same mistake again. Easy mistakes, easy mistakes. Okay. Scroll up here, check that I didn't do that. I did do that again. Okay, and there we go. When we go to our trigger here, go to properties, grab the object so we can see it, and then come over here, make it grabbable, and then use grab anchor on. We can see that it is pointing this way. So what we need to do is turn this off, go into physics on, and then go inside of the object. There we go. And now we can rotate this, and then we're going to go ahead and grab the trigger and just drag it and make it a little bit long, like maybe way too long, but hopefully that is going to cause us to have like more accurate. There we go. There we go. Now we got it nice and even. Move that. Basically want this bullet to be square in the center. So you can see the center is where the red dot is. All right, there we go. So we've got this trigger fully encapsulating and centering it, and back out. Super weird. And because I don't want to do this again, and I don't mind having the exact same color for each bullet, we're just going to duplicate this, then go into the properties of our gun. And then we're just going to relink the new bullet as our other bullet. Bullet 2. There we go. And grab our gun. Here comes our zombie. Oh, I'm not sure if that was just luck, but like when the bullets went under, like through the sides, it didn't trigger him, which I was surprised. I was thinking that might have been too close, but it wasn't. So, does this work every time? I think we might have solved it. Look at that. That every single time? I mean, far better than it was before. Okay. Now let's do some purposeful missed shots. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that works. I cannot believe that works. Wow. Okay, there we have it. So that was amazing. We have done it. We have created a gun. We've created the zombie that comes in when you grab the gun. And apparently the one time that we tried to shoot it didn't go away. Obviously it's not perfect, but I mean 2 shots to kill a zombie, that seems pretty normal if you ask me. And we got the double shooting barreled bullet, the effects. If there's anything else you'd like to do with this gun or you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. There is so much you can do with this, but from here you have the basic principles and the powerful concepts needed to create pretty much anything. Good luck to you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!